Have you ever wondered why your once peaceful home suddenly feels filled with tension? Why family relationships deteriorate without explanation? Why children refuse to enter certain rooms? Or why pets behave strangely near religious items? The answer might be hanging on your wall or sitting on your bedside table. I received a letter last month from Martha, an elderly woman in a small Italian village. Her hands trembled as she described the mysterious changes in her family. Her loving son and daughter-in-law argued constantly. Her young granddaughter refused to sleep in her own bedroom. Even their faithful dog avoided certain areas of their home. "We've consulted everyone," Martha wrote. "Family counselors, child psychologists, even veterinarians. No one can explain what's happening to our family." What Martha didn't realize was that a seemingly innocent religious item, a rosary purchased from an estate sale, might be the root cause of her family's suffering. This particular rosary featured unusual black beads with strange metallic symbols embedded within them. When Martha removed this rosary from her home following my guidance, her family's situation improved dramatically within just 3 weeks. Arguments ceased, her granddaughter returned to her bedroom, and their dog resumed its normal behavior patterns. This transformation wasn't mere coincidence. It reflects profound spiritual wisdom from Saint Padre Pio, whose extraordinary spiritual insights reveal dangers that remain invisible to most faithful believers. Today, I'm sharing vital information about certain types of prayer beads that might be disrupting spiritual harmony in Catholic homes rather than providing divine protection. Our ministry has documented numerous cases where removing specific rosaries led to remarkable spiritual restoration for families facing unexplained difficulties. Padre Pio possessed remarkable spiritual gifts, stigmata, bilocation, spiritual discernment, that allowed him to immediately recognize objects carrying troubling spiritual influences. Visitors to San Giovanni Rotondo were often surprised when he declined to bless certain items they brought, sometimes gently recommending proper disposal through specific spiritual procedures. The Rosary represents one of our faith tradition's most powerful spiritual tools, a direct connection to the Blessed Mother, and through her to Christ himself. Since its revelation to Saint Dominic centuries ago, it has been associated with countless spiritual victories and miracles. This spiritual potency, however, makes it a particular target for distortion. In our discussion today, I'll reveal 3 specific categories of rosaries that Padre Pio consistently cautioned against keeping in Catholic homes. I'll explain how these seemingly innocent prayer beads might affect your family's spiritual well-being, and identify 7 unmistakable signs indicating a rosary in your home might carry spiritual complications. Most importantly, I'll share Padre Pio's specific recommendations for restoring spiritual protection to your living environment. This wisdom remains largely unknown, even among devout believers. Yet understanding these potential spiritual dangers could transform your family's spiritual health and overall well-being. Let's begin by understanding why the Rosary holds such significant spiritual importance. These prayer beads represent far more than a physical aid for counting prayers. When properly blessed and used with genuine devotion, a rosary creates what Padre Pio described as a spiritual shield, surrounding the person praying and extending protection to their home environment. Throughout his ministry, Padre Pio referred to the rosary as the essential weapon for our times, revealing his profound understanding of unseen spiritual conflicts that affect our everyday lives. The rosary, used as intended, channels divine grace into our homes, creating sacred space amid worldly disorder. This spiritual power explains why certain influences might seek to diminish the rosary's effectiveness. As Padre Pio explained to his spiritual children, the adversary understands the rosary's power more completely than many believers do, which is why he works persistently to undermine this devotion through various means. One such method, according to Padre Pio's discernment, involves subtle alterations or misuses of the physical rosary itself. Through his extraordinary gift of spiritual perception, he could distinguish between rosaries fulfilling their sacred purpose and those carrying spiritual disturbances. Consider this revealing example from Padre Pio's ministry. In the late 1950s, a wealthy woman from an aristocratic Roman family visited San Giovanni Rotondo. She brought an elaborate rosary crafted from precious gems and metals for Padre Pio's blessing. While others admired its exceptional beauty, Padre Pio declined to touch it. When questioned, he explained that despite its material value, this rosary had been created with artistic pride rather than spiritual devotion. The craftsman had worked with technical excellence but without prayer, and the owner valued it primarily for its artistic qualities rather than its spiritual purpose. A simple wooden rosary handcrafted by a prayerful monk, Padre Pio explained, carries infinitely more spiritual benefit than the most expensive rosary created without proper devotion. This insight helps us understand the first potential concern: rosaries made without appropriate spiritual intention. But Padre Pio's discernment identified 3 specific categories deserving particular caution. The first category involves entirely black rosaries. While black certainly represents mourning and penitence in Catholic tradition, Padre Pio observed that this color has frequently been appropriated for practices incompatible with authentic faith. He could sense when black rosaries had been involved in ceremonies that distorted their sacred purpose. One devoted follower shared how her teenage son developed unexplained anxiety and resistance to prayer shortly after receiving an antique black rosary as a gift from a well-meaning friend. The mother initially dismissed any connection between the gift and her son's behavior changes. Eventually, she consulted a priest who had studied under Padre Pio's guidance. Following his recommendations, they had the rosary examined by a knowledgeable priest who discovered unusual modifications to the crucifix, subtle alterations distorting its sacred symbolism. After proper disposal of this rosary and a home blessing, the teenager's symptoms disappeared completely. As Padre Pio explained to concerned families, black rosaries, particularly those from uncertain origins or with unusual features, warrant careful spiritual evaluation. The second category Padre Pio identified involves intensely red rosaries. While red naturally symbolizes Christ's blood and martyrdom in our tradition, certain vividly red rosaries, especially those made from unusual materials or featuring non-traditional designs, raised Padre Pio's spiritual concerns. A family from southern Italy experienced ongoing household conflict and financial difficulties that began shortly after displaying a blood-red rosary prominently in their home. This rosary, purchased from an antique dealer for its unusual appearance, featured beads with an unnaturally intense crimson color. After learning about Padre Pio's warnings, they asked their parish priest to examine it. He noticed irregular spacing between beads and unusual symbols incorporated into the crucifix design, elements deviating from traditional Catholic imagery. Following Padre Pio's guidance, they arranged for proper disposal of the rosary through appropriate prayers and protocols. Within several months, their family harmony and financial stability gradually returned. As Padre Pio explained, certain red rosaries, particularly those with unusual color intensity or non-traditional designs, might have been created for purposes other than Catholic devotion. The third category, perhaps most concerning in contemporary society, involves multicolored rosaries incorporating elements from non-Christian spiritual traditions. In our era of spiritual blending, these hybrid prayer beads have become increasingly common, often marketed as universal spiritual tools or inclusive prayer aids. Padre Pio expressed particular concern about rosaries combining Catholic elements with symbols, materials, or designs from incompatible spiritual practices. These might include unusual crystals claimed to possess specific energetic properties, symbols from various world religions, or protective elements like evil eye charms integrated into the design. A school principal from a northern region shared how her once peaceful educational environment experienced unusual tension and student conflicts. After reading about Padre Pio's teachings, she realized the colorful Unity Rosary displayed in her office, featuring beads representing different world faiths, might be creating what Padre Pio called spiritual dissonance. This rosary combined Catholic prayers with elements from multiple spiritual traditions. After replacing it with a traditional Catholic rosary, she witnessed remarkable improvement in the school atmosphere. As Padre Pio explained, these combined rosaries, while often created with good intentions, create confusion regarding prayer's fundamental nature. Prayer in our tradition directly addresses God through specific channels of grace. When prayer instruments incorporate elements from spiritual systems with fundamentally different understandings of divinity, they create what Padre Pio described as spiritual interference, disruption in the clear communication channel with God. Beyond these three specific categories, Padre Pio expressed concern about the modern tendency to treat rosaries primarily as fashion accessories or decorative items. When sacred objects become primarily aesthetic pieces disconnected from their spiritual purpose, they risk losing spiritual integrity. This doesn't necessarily make them spiritually harmful in the same way as objects used in contrary practices, but represents a different kind of spiritual confusion, one that trivializes sacred items. How might these problematic rosaries manifest their influence in your home? Padre Pio identified several common indications that a rosary might be creating spiritual disruption rather than protection. The first sign often appears in your prayer experience. Many sincere Catholics report experiencing mysterious resistance to prayer despite their genuine intentions. An elderly gentleman described feeling an invisible heaviness whenever he attempted to pray in his study, where he displayed an unusual rosary collection. After removing certain rosaries following Padre Pio's guidelines, his prayer life flowed naturally again. A second sign involves unusual family tensions, unexplained disagreements, misunderstandings, and emotional distance, particularly when developing suddenly in previously harmonious relationships, might indicate spiritual disruption. This sign proves particularly difficult to recognize because these tensions appear ordinary, often mistaken for normal family stress rather than spiritual interference. Sleep disturbances represent a third common indication. Nightmares, insomnia, or waking unusually exhausted, especially when these symptoms affect multiple family members simultaneously, might suggest spiritual influence. Padre Pio explained that during sleep, our conscious defenses naturally lower, making us more vulnerable to subtle spiritual effects. Children and animals, with their natural spiritual sensitivity, often react first to these influences. A child's unexplained reluctance to enter certain rooms, unusual fears, or behavior changes might signal their intuitive response to spiritually compromised objects. Pets might avoid specific areas or display unusual agitation without apparent cause. Financial difficulties and health problems without clear explanation sometimes accompany spiritually troubling objects. While these challenges have many potential causes, Padre Pio observed that spiritual disruption often manifests in practical life areas, creating obstacles to well-being and prosperity. Emotional and psychological symptoms, unexplained depression, anxiety, or persistent heaviness in the home, can also indicate spiritual interference. Many families report experiencing what one mother described as an emotional cloudiness that lifted remarkably after removing certain rosaries following Padre Pio's guidance. Perhaps most concerning is the gradual weakening of faith and devotion that sometimes occurs in homes with spiritually compromised objects. This might appear as growing religious indifference, resistance to attending Mass, or general spiritual lethargy developing over time. These signs prove particularly difficult to recognize due to their gradual development. Spiritual disruption rarely announces itself dramatically. Instead, it builds slowly, eroding peace and harmony incrementally until family life feels fundamentally altered. Consider this powerful testimony from Isabella, a grandmother from a coastal village. For nearly 4 years, her previously harmonious household experienced escalating conflict, emotional distance, and unexplained health challenges. What began as occasional disagreements evolved into constant tension. Their parish priest, familiar with Padre Pio's teachings, inquired about religious items in their home. Isabella remembered a collection of unusual rosaries displayed in a wall cabinet. Beautiful pieces in various colors and materials collected over many years from different sources. Following Padre Pio's recommendations, they carefully examined each rosary, identifying several matching the concerning descriptions. After proper disposal of these items and a thorough home blessing, the transformation in their household proved remarkable. Within weeks, the atmosphere lightened, relationships began healing, and even their health issues showed improvement. What Padre Pio emphasized about spiritually compromised objects is that they don't create problems from nothing. Rather, they magnify existing human vulnerabilities. Like a magnifying glass focusing sunlight, they intensify natural human weaknesses into persistent patterns of discord. This explains why their effects can be so difficult to identify, The resulting problems seem like natural extensions of ordinary human limitations rather than external spiritual influence. If you've recognized some of these signs in your own home, don't become alarmed. Padre Pio provided clear, practical guidance for addressing these concerns with both faith and prudence. His approach balanced spiritual discernment with practical action, emphasizing that addressing these situations required both prayer and appropriate measures. The first step Padre Pio recommended involves a thorough inventory of religious items in your home. This isn't about becoming fearful or suspicious, but rather bringing mindful awareness to objects we often take for granted. Examine each rosary, noting its origin, materials, and any unusual features deviating from traditional designs. Ask yourself, where did this come from? Who created it? What was their intention? If you discover rosaries matching the three concerning categories, completely black, intensely red, or unusual multicolored ones with non-traditional elements, Padre Pio offered specific guidance. Importantly, he cautioned against simply discarding them, as this doesn't address their spiritual nature. For rosaries with unclear origins but no obviously troubling features, Padre Pio recommended having them blessed by a priest. Most parish priests can perform this blessing after Mass or during scheduled office hours. This blessing reconsecrates the object for its proper sacred purpose, neutralizing any previous misuse or negative associations. However, for rosaries triggering genuine spiritual discomfort or possessing clearly problematic elements, Padre Pio advised a different approach. These should be taken to a priest experienced in spiritual matters, who can determine whether the item should be blessed or, in some cases, properly disposed of through specific prayers and protocols. Proper method for disposing of blessed items that cannot be repurposed, Padre Pio explained, involves returning them to natural elements. This typically means burning or burying them after appropriate prayers. This should be done reverently, acknowledging that even compromised religious objects deserve respectful treatment. Prevention is equally important. When acquiring new rosaries, Padre Pio emphasized three essential criteria: proper source, proper blessing, and proper intention. Purchase rosaries only from reputable religious suppliers, church gift shops, established Catholic bookstores, or directly from religious communities. Have them blessed before use, and approach them reverently rather than as decorative or fashion accessories. Padre Pio particularly recommended traditional rosaries made from simple materials, wood, glass, or basic metals, crafted by religious communities as part of their contemplative work. These rosaries, he noted, carry the additional blessing of being created in an environment of continuous prayer. For those who've experienced negative spiritual influences, Padre Pio suggested a comprehensive approach to restoring spiritual health to the home. This included having the house blessed by a priest, establishing a dedicated prayer space with properly blessed religious items, and maintaining regular family prayer, particularly the rosary itself when used as intended. One practical recommendation Padre Pio often provided involved creating what he called a spiritual protection zone for the home. This included placing properly blessed sacramentals, a crucifix, holy water, and a simple traditional rosary near entryways and in bedrooms. These items, when blessed and used with sincere devotion, create a protective spiritual atmosphere. Consider another remarkable testimony illustrating these protocols' effectiveness. Gerald, a widower from a rural community, experienced increasing isolation and spiritual emptiness following his wife's passing. Despite lifelong faith, he found himself unable to pray with his usual devotion and experienced growing heaviness in his home. A visiting family member familiar with Padre Pio's teachings noticed an unusual collection of rosaries displayed prominently in his living room, gifts received over many years from well-meaning friends and relatives. Several matched the concerning descriptions: completely black rosary with unusual metal beads, an intensely red rosary with non-traditional spacing, and several multicolored ones incorporating unusual materials and symbolic elements. Following Padre Pio's guidance, they carefully evaluated each rosary. Those from trusted sources were kept and blessed by their parish priest. Others with concerning features were properly disposed of through appropriate spiritual protocols. They then arranged for a home blessing and established a simple prayer corner with a traditional wooden rosary blessed by their priest. The transformation in Gerald's spiritual life proved profound. his ability to pray returned, the oppressive atmosphere lifted, and he reconnected with his faith community. As he later explained, "It felt like removing a heavy burden I hadn't realized was weighing down my spirit." What's particularly beautiful about Padre Pio's teaching on this subject is its emphasis on properly blessed and used sacramentals, rather than focusing on fear. He wanted faithful believers to understand that true spiritual protection comes not from treating religious objects as magical talismans, but from approaching them with informed reverence and sincere devotion. Throughout these recommendations, Padre Pio emphasized a crucial principle. Power resides not in objects themselves, but in the faith, intention, and divine blessing they carry. A simple wooden rosary, properly blessed and used with sincere devotion, carries immeasurably more spiritual benefit than the most ornate or expensive rosary approached as a protective charm or decorative accessory. As we conclude our exploration of this essential teaching from Padre Pio, let's remember his fundamental message. True protection comes not from objects themselves, but from sincere faith expressed through proper devotion. The rosary, when used as intended, truly represents the essential weapon for our times. But like any powerful instrument, it must be used with proper understanding and respect. The spiritual insights we've discussed reflect Padre Pio's profound concern for everyday Catholic families' spiritual well-being. In our contemporary world, where religious objects are often mass-produced, marketed as fashion accessories, or created without proper spiritual understanding, his warnings deserve careful consideration. If you've recognized indications of spiritual disruption in your home or have concerns about rosaries in your possession, I encourage you to reflect prayerfully on these insights. Consult with a knowledgeable priest familiar with these traditional teachings and consider implementing the practical steps Padre Pio recommended for restoring spiritual protection to your living environment. Remember his reassuring words: pray, maintain hope, and avoid unnecessary worry. Spiritual discernment isn't about generating fear, but about living wisely with awareness of both visible and invisible realities. By approaching devotional objects with informed reverence, we honor their sacred purpose. If this teaching has resonated with your heart, I invite you to write, "Saint Padre Pio, guide my spiritual discernment," in the comments section below. Your comment will help others discover this important message who may be experiencing unexplained spiritual challenges in their homes. For those seeking deeper spiritual guidance, consider joining our God Protect Me membership program on our Saints Teachings channel. Members receive exclusive access to additional teachings, special prayers recommended by Padre Pio for home protection, and monthly blessing services live-streamed from chapels dedicated to Padre Pio's memory. Your support enables us to continue sharing these vital spiritual insights with faithful Catholics worldwide. Each subscription helps us reach more souls seeking spiritual guidance during challenging times. If this message has touched your heart, please like this video, share it with loved ones who might benefit from this wisdom, and subscribe to our channel. Our mission to preserve and share St. Padre Pio's spiritual legacy depends entirely on support from faithful viewers like yourself. Together, we form a spiritual family united by dedication to authentic Catholic teaching and practice. Before concluding, I offer this simple prayer for spiritual protection, one that Padre Pio frequently recommended to families concerned about spiritual influences in their homes. Heavenly Father, through St. Padre Pio's intercession, we request your divine protection over our homes and families. Cleanse our living spaces of any influences not originating from you. Guide our discernment regarding what brings genuine spiritual blessing, and grant wisdom in creating home environments fostering prayer, peace, and faithful devotion. Fill every corner of our dwellings with your holy presence and surround us with your protective grace. We ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen. Thank you for joining this spiritual journey of discovery today. Until our next video, maintain faith in your heart and wisdom in your spiritual practices. May abundant divine blessings reach you and your loved ones each day. Remember to subscribe to our Saints Teachings channel for more insights into protecting your spiritual well-being. Become a member of our God Protect Me program for exclusive monthly content delivered directly to you. And please share this video with anyone you believe might benefit from this timeless spiritual wisdom. Your spiritual health matters deeply, not just for yourself, but for everyone whose life you touch. By creating homes filled with authentic sacred objects used with proper devotion, you establish islands of spiritual protection in an increasingly confused world. This represents perhaps one of the most important gifts you can offer your family and community today. May Saint Padre Pio's spiritual wisdom continue guiding your journey toward deeper faith and more profound spiritual protection. Until we meet again in our next video, may divine peace fill your heart and home completely.